Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Victor Pizzolato hanging out with us from Imprivata, talking to us today about a couple of different things. We've got Imprivata, the update there. We've got ground control, what the updates for ground control as well. And we also got some demos for you guys, which is very exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him for an introduction. Victor, I know you. We've been working together for years, but for the people listening or the people watching, they might not. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do at Imprivata, and a little bit about the company?
Sure, Reid. Thank you. So my name is Victor Pizzolato. I came over with the acquisition of ground control. Here at Imprivata, I am a mobility specialist, which means anything on Android or iOS related to mobile devices is where I get involved, and I help support the solutions, the process, and the field teams in the channel as well. We came over as an acquisition about 13 months ago, and we've integrated into Imprivata's systems, which means all the backend systems for professional services, support has all been integrated. Our pre-sales teams have been integrated. So we're really, truly part of the Imprivata product and company today. We've retained almost every single individual that came across. That's really, really important, because we've retained the intellectual property, the knowledge, and the people who are developing the product,
right, the
supporting the product.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a good transition across into Imprivata today, and we're moving along very quickly. We've got a lot of business, we've got channels building, and we have a lot of excitement in mobile today with Imprivata solutions.
Awesome. Thank you. So again, you guys, so the merger happened, I shouldn't say merger, the acquisition happened. But the logos, and this is something that I just wanted to clear up because there was some confusion in the channel. The logos aren't officially merging. So the ground control logo, as we know it, has not gone away yet. Correct?
Correct. What they've decided upon was to keep the logos separate. And the reason for that is that on the iOS side, ground control is almost a verb. When people talk about provisioning and checking out devices, they use the ground control as a verb in their discussions. So we decided to keep the ground control logo going forward, but hence that will change at some point down the road. And then the Android side of the business is called MDA, and that MDA logo and terminology, once again, remains intact. So we have MDA as part of the Imprivata Android solution, and we have ground control, which is part of the iOS solution.
All right. So, and you guys, so you actually brought some demos for us to be able to see as well, correct? Which is the exciting thing, because I think seeing ground control work in real time is really that's the benefit of seeing how powerful it is like how fast it works, how simple it is to do. Any idiot can do it, like myself, which is very good. So without further ado, I'll just turn it over to you to get right into the demo section of this and show us what you got. I guess we're going to start with the MDA piece. We're going to do a little teaser, or are we going to do
I'll leave the teaser for last.
Okay.
Always leave the teaser for last.
All right. I like it.
Yes. But I will show you, I think, two pieces. Let's break this down. We have our provisioning solution on iOS, and then we have our checkout solution on iOS. So we're going to show this as two separate demos. Lots of use cases across multiple verticals. So keep that in mind when you're seeing the demonstration. And two, this is shared devices only. So initially, I'm going to start off with the demo, and you can potentially, I assume you can see that environment here. A docking station with the lights, and I'm going to walk over to the demo environment, and I'm going to demonstrate once again how this works. So very simply, high level, in most organizations, everyone has employee ID cards, and these employee ID cards are used for physical access.
All right, so so you're going to walk us through a demo. This is a healthcare specific demo of a person walking. They just got into their shift change. They're using their badge, like your typical RFID badge, which you have in your hand. It's just that's for anybody listening, the RFID badge that you just have hanging on your hip or like on a lapel jacket or whatever. Same thing to get into a building, right? You're going to use that same badge to badge across. It looks like a Wave ID RFID reader. And that's going to tell you one of these lights is going to turn, and it's going to tell you which device is provisioned directly to you, right? That's how simple this is.
That's how simple it is. So let me show you. Let me tap my badge.
Okay. Badge tapped.
I tap my badge, and the light turns blue, which is telling me the device is being staged at this point. And when it's done, it's going to blink white. That is a visual cue to the clinician to pick up that device.
Got it.
And when they do, now that the individual has access to a device that's unlocked and ready to go, which means they can launch applications and do other items. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually mirror the device. And when I
And
mirror
just
the device,
this
sure.
is checked out to the person, right? So it's got their employee ID number on it. It's got their name on it. The background specific or can be specific to them, right? It is checked out specifically to that individual, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
So
great.
you can see on the screen. So this is the actual device being mirrored, and you can see that there's applications on the device that have been installed. How do I know it's checked out to a specific individual? Because we put the person's name on the device, we can add digital ID and any other
Okay.
messaging that are necessary. So this personalizes the device. It also sets up the device for the specific applications. If it's a clinician, it's a doctor, is it a transport individual in the hospital? Each individual gets different restrictions, profiles, and applications. The other nice piece of this is that we have a solution called self-heal. So think about a device that's broken and we need to fix the device. What do we typically do? We contact the help desk, file a ticket, and usually the clinician or the individual will throw this on a desk and try to pick up another device, requiring a bigger spare pool. So we've created, what do you call it, a solution that's called self-heal, and self-heal is on the bottom of the tray here.
Mhm.
And when I hit self-heal and toggle that switch, it's a self-heal button that allows ground control to understand or have visibility that the device is broken. And if I was to come back and dock this into the dock, it would actually reprovision it and restage it for the next user, not
Mm.
requiring a help desk ticket, not requiring any human intervention. The
And I mean, that's a huge deal because if you're in a hospital
Sure,
space and this again, this has application outside a hospital. We're just
right.
talking about it in that regard. But if you're in a retail environment, for example, or if you're doing something in manufacturing, and the device goes down, you can't really inundate the IT department with password reset requests or hey, what this device is down, can you triage this on the phone? You just have the ability to hit that soft button on screen, dock it back into the dock, and check out another device that's again signed out to that individual. It's a really great way for anybody that has a limited IT resource pool, which is everybody, regardless of
Right.
the size of the organization, to be able to triage these things on the fly. This is very cool.
Now, let me show you a third one. So, typically, asset management, asset tracking, we can keep track of what device has been taken by what individual and from what location. And if it's returned elsewhere or not returned, we have visibility into the actual locations and the movement of the device. So, you can see here on screen that this individual, it's Barney Pemberton, right, has checked out this device 3 minutes ago, right, from the actual location. And we also see that there's one charging, which shows this other device here in the dock is charging.
Mhm.
If there was a device overdue, it would show up as overdue, and it would actually state by whom and for how long.
Hmm.
So this actual application can be installed on every device. And if a department manager picks up one device, checks it out, and they want to keep track of what individuals on their staff for that shift have returned or not returned devices, everything is visible here in one single application.
Hmm. That's very cool. See, it's even an asset tracking in a way.
Correct. Asset tracking, asset management.
That's great.
And it once again it reduces the eventuality or the possibility of devices leaving the organization
Mhm.
accidentally or not. No.
Okay.
So we're going to take this device, which I've just shown you in a screen mirroring, and I'm going to return the device back to the dock. And what's going to happen at this point is it's going to restage this device in a matter of seconds, and it'll be available for the next user who comes along and taps their badge. This is the beauty of having multiple individuals coming in and just being able to tap a badge on the badge reader and retrieve whatever device is available. Now, there's a second item that's really important: battery health. These
Oh,
devices
actually,
burn
yeah.
out.
And we just saw just a second ago, not to interrupt you again, but we just saw that for those of you are listening, I should say, he plugged the device back into the dock, and it just you could actually see the applications on screen starting to get deleted,
Mhm.
and the phone screen just said locked. So it is now officially locked. So if you grab that out, it's basically a brick. It's not going to do anything.
Yep. And let me share out so you can actually see here. This is what the device looks like in the dock. It's
Mm,
gone from that openness to a device that's locked, and it's bricked, which means someone can come along, they can recycle it, they can plug it into iTunes, but this device will never be permitted to for use because it's locked up in a stage and ready for only ground control to release based on
mm.
a badge tab. So I'm
Very
going to
cool. And you
switch back
mentioned
over.
I cut you off about the battery. I wanted to come back to that. You said battery health is
Yes.
very important, and it absolutely is. You have a stat about that you can speak to.
Correct. Yes. And I just want to make sure you can see the actual dock,
Hmm.
correct?
Yep.
Right. Right. So battery health is extremely important. This is the reason why devices don't last 2 or 3 years on a lease or a purchase. Is because if you're using the same device over and over again, who's managing which devices should be released based on the battery health? So what ground control does is it monitors the battery health percentage and the cycles, and it's
Mm.
going to take the best device with the best battery health and cycle, and when you tap your badge, that's the device that it's going to provision to you. And the ability to do that preserves the battery and it extends the life of the actual phone for typically about 6 months longer than if it was just being repurposed or reused.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, especially if something's charged and ready to go, and something isn't, you don't want to check out the device that isn't because the device that is fully charged, you're just going to continue to charge, and that heat that builds up while you're charging is what kills the battery
Right.
cells. So having an active
Sure.
management around that's really really smart.
Sure. So, Reed, do we want to talk about a couple examples of healthcare organizations that are using this
Yeah,
and how?
absolutely, absolutely. That'd be
Sure.
great.
Yeah. So I'm going to stand here by the dock only because it adds a little more flavor. But one example is John Hopkins. So John Hopkins came to us initially and they said, I have 3,000 iPads and I need to provision them for telehealth and patient engagement. And we're going to show you a demo of that in a couple of minutes. But they started and they only had one FTE, one full-time employee to provision 100 locations with 3,000 iPads. That's
Wow.
a huge undertaking. How do you do that with one person?
Yeah.
It was physically impossible. Yes, they do have an MDM and we complement MDM, but at the same token, they need an automated solution that was hands off. I want to put a dock in 100 locations and I want to be able to put iPads in those docks and I want to be able to provision them and re-provision them because
Yeah.
remember, iPads between patients get to come in and out of the dock. They
Hmm.
get wiped and reset, and there's no individual at every location to perform those functions.
Hmm.
On the clinical side, they decided, okay, now the iPads are in place. Where we through COVID, they did a great job with once again telehealth and inpatient consults. Now they had the clinicians, and the clinicians needed iPhones of different sizes to be able to run their medical applications on and service their patients. Because remember, the patient is on the iPad and the doctor, the nurse is on the iPhone, and they need to communicate with one another through a video session. So they deployed iPhones across those 100 locations as well. And now the clinicians are able to not only service the patients, but they're also able to do those inpatient consults as well. That's John Hopkins' use case. There's several others.
I mean, can we talk? Do you want to talk about any other? I mean, I mentioned retail and
Right.
manufacturing. I think aviation specifically. You have a couple
Sure.
good use cases there. But do you want to talk a little bit about retail? I think you've got some pretty large logos there that are fantastic to speak to, and I think it puts a nice stamp of validity to the efficacy of the solution. If you want to talk about those use cases as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also have, as an example, Saks Fifth Avenue, Estee Lauder, Macy's, quite a few retailers who have store associates. You think about how many stores, there's thousands of stores that are remote, that do not have IT staff or support. Some of these have only 3 or 4 employees, but they're using iPhones or sometimes iPads to service the clients, which is inventory control, purchasing. All these are running on a mobile device. So they basically come in, they're not checking out the device, they're picking up a device and they're using it because it's open. But the objective is, in a lot of these cases, if there's a break fix issue, they have to ship those devices back to a central location. That's a huge cost and overhead, number
Yeah.
one. And two, they need a spare pool in every single location. Think about 1,000 locations needing at least 2 or 3 spare pool of devices. That's a very expensive proposition.
Hmm.
So with ground control, if there's a problem with the device, they plug it in. They don't ship it back. There's no reason to have any additional spare pools. There's enough for the retail associates across those
Yeah.
locations.
And that's what that self-heal that you showed us, right? You're just hitting a soft button on screen, plug the device back in, it's fixing itself. You don't actually have to send anything back or contact IT.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Now, some of the more sophisticated locations are using checkout because they want to check out a device to, say, Reid, who's in footwear, or Lisa, who's in jewelry. So they know what device was taken by who and what department that device is being used in. So other organizations in retail have gotten a little more sophisticated. Once again, they're using the same software, the same dock, the same type of phones. It's just the use case is slightly different.
Mhm.
I also want to talk about aviation because aviation and transportation is super important. So Delta and Cebu Airlines, they're using us. There's Hawaiian Airlines, a bunch of aviation companies using us for different reasons. But Delta is using it as a way for flight attendants who come into the port on an aircraft and have a non-workable phone. That phone is required in order for that entire flight crew to depart. It has a set of instructions that are needed. That device is also used for procurement of beverages and food. But if that flight attendant does not have a workable phone, that flight does not depart. That costs them a lot of time and money.
Mhm.
So Delta has a kiosk system where if a flight attendant comes in and that device is not working, they tap their badge. They have a kiosk system that's built around the actual the dock here, and it releases a phone to them, and then they can track where that device is going from terminal to terminal across one country to the other. So
Mm.
they always have visibility to where devices are, but it alleviates the problem of that the flight being delayed and the
Yeah.
cost associated with it. So there's a big dollar amount around having a loaner device available. Cebu Airlines, as an example, uses checkout, just like you've seen here, but they use
Mhm.
iPads, and every ticket agent that you typically see when you walk up and you get your ticket or you turn in your baggage has an iPad. And what they're doing is the ticket agents come into work, they tap their badge, they get an iPad provisioned to them, and that's what they use when they're interfacing with customers. And
Mm.
once again, this is in multiple terminals in multiple locations, and Cebu is located actually out in the Asia Pacific area.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You said you had another demo you were going to show us?
I am, absolutely. I want to
All
switch over
right.
cameras. Very good. And we'll switch over to this other demo environment. Just let me know when you can see that.
Got it.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the example of using an iPad in an
Mm.
environment. Once again, it could be healthcare, it could be aviation, it could be retail, oil and gas, where you need a bigger form factor. Although, if you see in this environment here, I have 2 iPhones and they are actually at the hello screen. Why? I'm just demonstrating that we can take as many devices we want and plug them in, and
Mm.
it will automatically provision the device. I have not provisioned this device yet, but just to show that we can take different form factors. I could put phones of different sizes side by side. I could put iPads of different sizes into these slots.
Mhm.
So this is a mixed use environment. It can
Right.
accommodate different types of devices. I also have Android. I have a Zebra device here, right? I have a
Very cool.
Samsung tablet. And in certain industries like healthcare, like this is a Beam case, this is a Future Nova case. So if you're
Mm.
putting an iPhone or an iPad into a special case,
Mhm.
they fit into the slots very simply. So you don't need to worry. There's different form factors for different docking stations we provide. The
Mhm.
objective here is we have a mixed use environment. So I have a iPad, and the iPad is already provisioned. And so in this use case, I'm a clinician. I want to hand the iPad to a patient so they can do telehealth, patient consults, patient engagement, talk to their loved ones. So what does the clinician need to do? They basically, as you can see here, and I'm going to show you at a screen mirroring session as well.
Okay, I was gonna say, can you bring that just a little bit to the right and well to
Sure.
my
There we
right?
go.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. But I'm going to screen mirror this so you can actually see this on screen as well. I just wanted to
Okay.
show you that this is pre-provisioned already with all the applications on it, right?
Mm.
But the objective here is I want to screen mirror this so you can actually see this firsthand on screen. So now I'm mirroring actually the iPad here. right?
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'll make this a little larger so you can see this. Oop, there we go. All right. So here, once again, there's no name. I didn't check this out to a specific individual, but I am taking an iPad that's already been provisioned. So in this case, you can see all the applications on here.
Can you just sorry to interrupt? Can you drag that down a little bit just because it's just the top left of the screen just to make it a little bit bigger for everybody?
Sure, like this. There we go.
That's perfect. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. So like Fly Delta. So Fly Delta is an application that Delta uses, and it has specific requirements and needs. But in either case, what I wanted to explain is it doesn't matter what application I have. We have a self-heal application on this device as well. You can get to news and a bunch of FaceTime. So in a patient environment, we might have Facebook, Instagram, right? Snapchat, your email, all this can be provisioned to the device. So when you pick up the device as a patient, you can plug in your credentials, and you can get your mail, and you can get access to your social media. The danger about that is, but the nicety about ground control is when you're done, you want to wipe this device completely and set it up touch-free without any human intervention. And that's what ground control does. So it's a great experience for the user because they have access to all their applications and they can plug in all their credentials and be able to use it like they're at home. But when they're done, they're going to turn it in, and this device is going to be completely reset back to factory settings and reset up. Once again, zero effort. I'm never going to touch this device during that process. But I wanted to show you what the screen looks like because now I'm going to come back. Let me switch screens again, and I'm going to switch over to the camera to the actual environment here.
This when we're back to the dock where the like the Android device was, not the same
Right.
dock from earlier, different dock.
Right. And I'm going to plug this in because that's the workflow, right? Is to unplug it, hand it to someone, plug it back in, right? And you can see the green light turns to yellow, which means that the process is starting. Now, this takes about 5 to 6 minutes to provision a device, depending on how many applications are coming across. But you notice I'm not touching this, and the objective is to show that this device is going to be completely wiped and reset without anyone touching at all. Now,
You can see on screen it's kind of blurred out, but because the screen's locked, but you can see that the applications being deleted off one by one before the screen actually shut down.
Yeah, and let me switch over to my desktop section here because what I did want to show you was how it's actually working. There we go. If you can see this. So you can see here, it's erasing the device. So this is the server console, and you're actually seeing the functions happening. So it's erasing the device. You can see, you may not be able to see that. There's the Apple logo here on the screen. So it's wiping it, and it's going to reprovision it, which means it's reprovisioning back into MDM. It's going to put all the applications and profiles back on that device as well. But once again, hands-free because no one is involved. So this is happening at, say, Johns Hopkins. And think about 3,000 devices where devices are being wiped and reset, and no one's ever touching it other than plugging it in or unplugging it when it's needed.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, again, I can't stress it. And I think it goes to say without having to actually say it. You see it, it makes all the sense in the world. But you just can't have somebody as a workflow constantly resetting, actually physically touching devices to do that just all day long. It's not something that would be feasible. Your solution legitimately is solving a massive market need to be able to reset these devices and make them almost nearly net new to each specific individual that's using them. It's a very unique solution. It's very powerful as well.
Correct. So it's at the hello screen right now. You may not be able to see that. So it's been completely factory reset. It's at the hello screen. And now at this point, if you look on the screen, it's activating it with DEP. And then at that point, it's going to apply the MDM configuration. So everything you're seeing on screen is happening, once again, all automated by ground control.
That's very cool. And you said this is at Johns Hopkins. Was this is this part of retail and aviation as well, or just at Johns Hopkins right now?
No, actually, this is the base solution. So provisioning happens before checkout. So this is just a typical iPad use case. But yes, Johns Hopkins is using this on their iPads. Delta's not using this on iPads, but retails like Saks Fifth Avenue, yes, they're using them. Estee Lauder uses iPhones for the same process of just wiping and reprovisioning, as well as Cebu. And then if we talk about oil and gas, there's other verticals. Oil and gas, you have companies like Shell and Sempra Energy that are using this with their field technicians when they go out and like read your meters and service your homes. So there's a lot of use cases. But once again, the key thing to remember is this is shared devices, shared iPads, shared iPhones, shared iPods. And then whenever you're ready, I'm going to show you a teaser of our Android solution, which is checkout on Android.
That's very cool. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. If you want, and actually just for everybody that's listening, so the ground control console that we have in front of us is basically just running. You can see under the status bar on the far right side of the screen, it's just running through saying that the device is being wiped. It's applying the MDM. The device, it's actually, we're applying the API for AirWatch. Signing the device, and then it says deployment will start, and then you're enabling the device, which is very cool. I mean, this is just running through, or erasing device. Sorry, I'm too far away from my screen. I clearly need glasses. Erasing device, not enabling the device. But yeah, this is a very, again, anybody that has a limited IT resources, which is ostensibly every organization. I'm not sure any company that has, legitimately the IT resources that they need. Everybody kind of is lacking in that department. So really powerful solution for anyone that has a shared pool of devices and a limited IT resource to be able to triage and fix these devices on the go, which is, again, it's like everybody in every industry. It's a very cool solution, extremely applicable. You're going to show us the MDA side, right, for Android?
Oh, I absolutely am. Why would I? There we go.
Yeah, you can't talk about that.
There we go. There we go. So this is the Android solution. So you can see it's a similar type of lock screen. This mimics what we've done on iOS to some extent. But the device.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you drop the screen brightness down? It's getting a lot of glare. I feel like we're missing part of it.
Oh, okay.
Not to make this more complicated, and if you can't on the fly, that's totally fine. We'll just edit this out. And by edit it, I mean we'll keep it. I'm kidding. Sure. All right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You can go from there. That's fine.
Sure. Okay. So we have the typical lock screen here is the ability to be able to take the same. I'm going to take the same badge that I used on the iOS side on the Android, but Android has NFC capabilities. So here you don't need an RFID reader. The workflow is you pick up a device and you tap the badge on the back of the device. So that's what I'm going to do here. And when you tap your badge on the back of the device, it unlocks it.
Very cool.
And it's doing the same process on the back end. It's authorizing the user. And on Android, we're also authenticating the user because there's additional SSO capabilities. So if I was to tap on this here, you can see that now my name, P. Bemberton, right? Just like you saw on the iOS device on the lock screen.
Can you drop it down just a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thanks. There we go. Right. The ability here to put the individual's name and credential them into the application. So this is a healthcare EMR app. This is a test app. But the objective is when I tap my badge, it not only unlocked the screen and authorized me to use this device, it also authenticated me in, like an IDP, into the applications that you're using on this device. So the user has to do no credentialing into applications. We find that to be a big user frustration, constantly credentialing into applications over and over again. So we eliminate the need to credential into applications. Tap your badge, unlock the device, launch the app, you're automatically credentialed in, and you start doing your work. And then when you're done, at the end of your shift, you tap the back of the badge on the device, and what happens?
It
locks it back up. It also logs you out of those applications, which are really important. So this is checkout for Android. Yep.
Very cool. That's it. And again, I think as everyone's tried to go mobile and have some type of mobile solution or do a shared pool of devices, this is a need. And how do you manage those devices? How do you manage people checking them out? How do you track them? And again, just to reiterate, I keep hammering on the point, but I just want to make sure that it gets across. So sorry to beat a dead horse to death, but the concept of a limited shared pool of devices, limited IT resources, mobility devices in the field, checking those things in and out, provisioning them on the fly. I mean, typically people just don't have a solution for this, which is why this is so valuable. And the current method of doing this, which is physically touching or trying to get nothing against any MDMs out there, but you can't shoehorn this into a solution. You can't shoehorn what you guys are doing. I should say an MDM being shoehorned into what this is. That was the worst analogy ever, by the way. I was trying to say you can't take an MDM and make it do this. You guys have really curated the software to be very intelligent and designed to specifically support this thing, which is great. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's very cool.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Yeah, just to mention, we're the middleware. So we are talking to MDM. We are talking to our backend systems for the IDP and the authentication and authorization piece. We sit in the middle and we physically connect to devices. And there's a lot of value as well into how our architecture and design works, where we sit next to the device versus communicating over the air to the device. So there's a lot of inherent value points with our architecture, and we can discuss that one-on-one with whomever, partners, discussions, whoever is interested.
Absolutely. Before we're out of here, we can hit closing comments, but I just want to circle back to the verticals piece. Now that we've seen the solution, maybe get the gears turning as well. Vertical focus is for you guys. Like I said, you're in healthcare, you're in retail, you're in aviation, but this is really applicable well past that. Do you have any final points on that and then closing out?
No, I mean, look, if you find an opportunity or you see an opportunity where there's shared devices mixed in with your BYOD and corporate-owned devices in industries where they're challenging with either one or two things. I can't find my devices, can't track my devices. I'm having problems identifying what users are attached to what devices at any point in time, or struggling with provisioning. How do I provision the devices over and over again and do it with less labor and time and administration? Any of those types of pain points will play in very well to our provisioning and checkout solutions.
Very cool. Thank you so much for taking time to hang out with us today on Beyond the Device and showing us these demos. I think, again, it's like seeing is believing. So if you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple iTunes, please be sure to check out the YouTube link as well. I think seeing this stuff, it's also something you can share with your customers as well. So seeing this is very powerful. So again, Victor Pizzolato from Imprivata, thank you so much for hanging out with us. To learn more about this solution, if you have any active opportunities out there, please reach out to us at sales@3iTech.com. That's sales at the number 3EYETECH.com. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I hope you learned something. I know I always do. And we'll see you next time. Check you out on the internet. Bye.
Thanks, Reid.